This brief presentation will detail how the COVID-19 disease process is operational and how it kills its victims. The Corona-2 virus, or the severe acute respiratory syndrome COVID-2 virus, was first discovered in Wuhan, China. It causes a disease that is now referred to as COVID-19. The virus itself is a simple virus. It contains an outer envelope, which is usually made of lipids, and projecting out from the envelope are S proteins. These are important as the spikes on the capsule that they represent attach themselves to the surface of a human cell and are analogous to a key, allowing the virus entry and then into that cell. The core of the virus is a simple virus. It's an RNA virus. And once this virus enters the cell, it disposes of its lipid covering and releases its RNA contents, which then proceed to combine with various elements of the infected cell to replicate itself into many copies. These copies, once matured, once again reconstitute into multiple copies of the virus, destroy the cell, and are released. The infected individual is usually infected by respiratory droplets from one already with the disease. Once the respiratory droplets enter the lungs or other tissues, the S proteins on the virus attach themselves to target cells. The target cells are usually cells in the lung, although they may be present also in the spleen and in the gastrointestinal tract. They are distinguished particularly by the fact that they are rich in an enzyme referred to as ACE2 or the angiotensin converting enzyme 2. There is a great affinity for the ACE2 enzyme and the S protein of the viral particles. Once the virus attaches itself to the cell, it then proceeds to enter the cell. Once it enters the cell, it releases its content into the cell cytoplasm. Once in the host cell, the coronavirus uses the host cell components to create new viral contents, and the coronavirus replicates itself multiple times over inside the host cell. It eventually kills the host cell and then leaves the host cell to infect other cells. The discussion so far has been on a single cell layer. Let's see what happens when it in fact enters the lung. The coronavirus enters the small sacs in the lung called alveoli. This slide is representative of a single alveolar cell. It infects the lung cells, gaining entry into them. Once inside the lung cells, immune cells, which are part of the lung cells and include macrophages, phage meaning eater, that means great eater, they identify the virus and produce cytokines, which are a part of the body's inflammatory response against infection. Well, what are cytokines? Cytokines are a large group of proteins, peptides, and glycoproteins that is secreted by specific cells of the immune system. They are actually a kind of signaling molecule that helps mediate and regulate immunity, inflammation, and blood formation. They are particularly important in cell-to-cell communication and are central to the immune response and stimulate movements of cells of the body to fight infection, inflammation, or trauma. When released in excessive amounts, they stop distinguishing between enemy intruders and tend to attack all cells, including the normal cells in the body. This results in what we call a systemic inflammatory response syndrome, which is seen as a complication of infections, but is now also seen as an adverse effect of monoclonal antibody drugs and various new T-cell therapies which are being used in the management of cancer. Once the cytokines attract several immune cells, including white blood cells, which in turn produce more cytokines, creating a cycle of inflammation that damages the lung cells. Damage occurs because of the release of fibrin and scar tissue, and the effect is that oxygen cannot enter the alveoli or the bloodstream appropriately. The cytokines and other cells also weaken blood vessels, making them leaky, and they seep their contents into the lung cavities, leading to respiratory failure. They are very much akin to a tsunami, flooding the contents of the lung. Here is the result. It shows a normal chest X-ray with the dark appearing areas being air-filled alveoli. When attacked by the COVID-19 virus, the effects of the flood of inflammatory material are reflected by the white areas. A CT scan that is normal is seen on the right, and a chest CT which has a typical ground glass appearance, the white areas being the areas of damage by the COVID-19 virus.